we have to declare racism a public health crisis.
We already have sufficient data to declare structural racism a public health crisis that it is.
Racism is a public health crisis.
Well, the lefties, they were clamoring for it, and the CDC finally did it. They caved into the months-long campaign by the left to declare racism a, quote, serious public health threat. Forget about COVID-19. This is absolutely what the CDC should be focusing its time on right now. They're nailing it. They should focus on this. The agency saying in a statement that racism, quote, directly affects the well-being of millions of Americans and the health of our entire nation. Joining me now is Dr. Ben Carson, founder and chairman of the American Cornerstone Institute and former HUD secretary. Doctor, thank you very much for joining us tonight. I got to ask you this. In your expert medical opinion, because those words should matter, is racism a serious public health threat?
Well, you know, it would be funny if it wasn't so serious, Pete. And, sure. You know, a few weeks ago, you probably remember the French said the greatest danger facing them was a woke America. I mean, that's where the real health crisis is going on. I was looking at a news story not too long ago, and they were interviewing college students from other parts of the world. And one of the questions was, would you like to come to America? And they all said there was a time when they wanted to. That time is past. What happened to the shiny city on the hill that was the goal for people all over the world? And we have to be very concerned about what's going on right now. You know, America, the idea, not America, the place, it's so important. As far as the CDC is concerned, it used to be a place of science where people did things based on evidence and on facts. And when you start injecting politics into it, it really damages the credibility of that organization. And that's problematic for us all.
Yes.
In terms of public health. That's the real hazard, injecting politics into science.
Yeah, just like when you pack the court, you delegitimize an institution our country requires and needs. Same thing with the CDC here. Same thing with the word racism. When you call everything racist, it dilutes the actual meaning. But when Democrats actually act like racists, it seems like they're forgiven for it. Remember this?
Governor Northam has led the most forward-looking Virginia ever, with real progress on our original sin of racism and with the abolition of the death penalty.
So that's a representative. Remember, Ralph Northam was caught wearing blackface, and now he single-handedly somehow removed Virginia's so-called original sin of racism. So you can be forgiven if you sufficiently bend to the woke folks for the mistakes you've made, never the other way around.
Well, you know, what is so serious here is that we are doing exactly what needs to be done to move to socialism and communism, and that is replacing God with government.
Amen.
And as government expands, as Ronald Reagan said, our freedoms decrease. That's what's really going on. People need to wake up. And, you know, that's why we developed American Cornerstone Institute, so we can bring back those principles, remind people of who we are as Americans. You know, a godly principle is to love your neighbor. A woke principle is to cancel your neighbor. Is that really where we want to go? When you look down the road, those two pathways, they lead to very different places. We now still have a chance to change the direction of this country, to save it for our children and our grandchildren. We need to stop being selfish. That means also not massively raising the debt, because who's going to have to pay that? Not us older people. We're going to be dead and gone. It's going to be our children and our grandchildren. We're ruining their lives. That's not fair. Thomas Jefferson said it was immoral.
Amen. When we forget we are all sinners redeemed by grace, then we start pointing fingers in ways we never should, and then we can't walk back from it. I love the idea of the American Cornerstone Institute. It is about God, and thank you for continuing to talk about it. Dr. Carson, have a great evening.
Thank you.